But you fought basketball players, you fought strikers in the UFC, you fought a 50-year-old, Mike Tyson. Yeah, the money was there, but it wasn't the toughest matches in the world. Why'd you pick those fights? Because you could make money without it being much of a risk.
It's kind of weird because Jake Paul is extremely bigger than Tank. And but with it being a exhibition, it makes sense.
Going up against a 200-pounder, I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab.
Former champion Sean Porter presented a more personal viewpoint regarding Jake Paul's rise in boxing. He explained that most fighters accept Jake's offers because of the lucrative pay, not out of genuine respect. The financial incentives are substantial, and very few boxers can afford to decline them. However, Porter believes Jake has not yet earned true admiration within the boxing community. Any respect he receives remains superficial. People acknowledge his impressive business strategy rather than his in-ring talent. Jake's team understands promotion and marketing exceptionally well. Although authentic recognition in this sport comes from facing and defeating elite competitors, that is something money alone cannot secure. Every aspect of this fight reflects how boxing is shifting into a business-first industry. For Jake, the bout represents another opportunity to prove that he belongs among legitimate professionals. For Tank, it serves as a test of how far his brand can expand beyond traditional boxing boundaries. Both fighters possess distinct marketing power. Jake has built his fame through spectacle, whereas Tank has constructed his reputation through proven skill.
Knockout on Ryan Garcia in April of 2023. Stephen A., is Tank Davis the most exciting fighter in boxing?
Yes, he is. He absolutely is. I love me some Terrence Crawford. He's spectacular, probably #1 pound for pound on the planet. I'm a Canelo Alvarez fan. Obviously, I'm a David Benavidez fan. But this brother, Gervonta Davis, Tank Davis, the time has come for the world to recognize this is one of the top 5 fighters on the planet. He might be top 3.
Yeah.
You can make a legitimate argument for him being 3, 1, or whatever.
According to Smith, Gervonta is one of the rare natural fighters whose reflexes and punching ability consistently place him among the sport's elite. He believes the size gap gives Paul an opportunity to land something decisive, although if Davis manages distance and timing effectively, the fight could turn into a one-sided domination. In his recurring segments, Stephen A. repeatedly warns Jake that arrogance can betray any fighter. Size does not guarantee success when exchanging punches with a refined knockout specialist.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Smith has repeatedly stated that he views Jake Paul as more than an internet personality casually throwing punches. He recognizes that Jake has dedicated himself to the craft, training under professional coaches, running full camps, and putting in serious effort, which indicates that he is operating like a professional. However, Stephen A. argues that professionalism alone is not sufficient. This is the moment for Jake to challenge himself against legitimate boxers, athletes who match him in age, size, activity level, and credibility within the sport. According to Smith, only that caliber of opponent will determine whether Jake is truly prepared to move beyond the sideshow and earn genuine respect in the world of traditional boxing.
Jake Paul is a professional. At some point in time, I don't give a damn if it's a light heavyweight. Beterbiev, Bivol, a super middleweight, Canelo, Mexican Monster, David Benavidez, somebody that actually has a reputation. The time has come for Jake Paul to step into the ring with a cat who actually boxes for a living and give us that fight. I appreciate the fact of him promoting. I appreciate him having the cachet as a former YouTuber turned boxer. I like Jake Paul. I respect Jake Paul. I'm just saying, because I like him and because I respect him, I want to see him in the ring. And I don't want to hear, I know his numbers are better, but then he's going to say, I don't need Canelo. Canelo needs me. Well, wait a minute. It ain't just about popularity, bro. But you fought basketball players, you fought strikers in the UFC, you fought a 50-year-old, Mike Tyson. Yeah, the money was there, but it wasn't the toughest matches in the world. Why'd you pick those fights? Because you could make money without it being much of a risk. Well, if you're doing that, how you gonna turn around and knock Canelo Alvarez for doing the same? Especially working in a sport that you yourself, Jake Paul, has called corrupt and abusive towards fighters. Now, I understand you're upset, you're a little bit salty about Canelo using you to get a better deal from Riyadh or him turning down a fight with you. But what you're attempting to do and what you have done to some degree, Canelo Alvarez has done. He has fought Triple G, he has fought Mayweather. He has, even though Charlo's undersized, he was a champion. Terrence Crawford is a champion. By the way, he's not 140, he's not 135, he's 147. And then his last fight, I think, was at 154. And oh, by the way, he would move up a couple of weight classes. Now, I think Canelo needs to be fighting David Benavidez as well. But he did fight and knock out Kovalev at the light heavyweight spot. He did fight and lose to Bivol. He did fight Triple G, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So when Canelo sits up there and says, I fight fighters, he ain't lying. His reputation does speak for itself. So I can't sit up there and flow with you, Jake Paul, on that one.
He has pointed out that Jake Paul cannot reasonably complain about receiving criticism when Canelo Alvarez is doing something similar. Smith argues that even Canelo, a legitimate boxing legend, has recently taken fights that appear driven more by money and spectacle than by pure competitive challenge. Stephen A. Smith has also confronted Jake Paul directly, stating that if he is genuinely serious about boxing, rather than the flash, the paydays, and the spectacle, he must face opponents who match him in age and size. He contends that Paul has consistently selected fights featuring clear physical advantages, often against older or significantly smaller opponents. If he intends to prove his legitimacy, he must step into the ring with a peer, someone truly comparable. According to Stephen A., that is the only realistic path to test his skill set, build genuine credibility, and demonstrate measurable progress rather than simply generating headlines.
I can't buy the hype at this particular moment in time. Now, I'll give Jake Paul credit for this. At least he's in the ring with a boxer. But 57 years old is 57 years old. And 57 years old and formally walking into a UFC fight as an audience member, as a patron with a cane, it's hard to me to believe a year later that you're gonna be in any condition to really, really fight. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. And if you're Jake Paul, here's what I want to say to you. It's Mike Tyson, that's fine. It's a money fight, I get you, and you want to make money. But at some point in time, if you keep telling us that you're taking boxing seriously and you want to be recognized as a big-time boxer / fighter, you're going to have to fight somebody closer to your age, who is a contender at the very least in the sport and who lives with it every single day. Could you please get in the ring with somebody? Pretty please, with sugar on top. I'm interested.
But you fought basketball players, you fought strikers in the UFC, you fought a 50-year-old, Mike Tyson. Yeah, the money was there, but it wasn't the toughest matches in the world. Why'd you pick those fights? Because you could make money without it being much of a risk. Well, if you're doing that, how you gonna turn around and knock Canelo Alvarez for doing the same? Especially working in a sport that you yourself, Jake Paul, has called corrupt and abusive towards fighters. Now, I understand you're upset, you're a little bit salty about Canelo using you to get a better deal from Riyadh or him turning down a fight with you. But what you're attempting to do and what you have done to some degree, Canelo Alvarez has done. He has fought Triple G, he has fought Mayweather. He has, even though Charlo's undersized, he was a champion. Terrence Crawford is a champion. By the way, he's not 140, he's not 135, he's 147. And then his last fight, I think, was at 154. And oh, by the way, he would move up a couple of weight classes. Now, I think Canelo needs to be fighting David Benavidez as well. But he did fight and knock out Kovalev at the light heavyweight spot. He did fight and lose to Bivol. He did fight Triple G, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So when Canelo sits up there and says, I fight fighters, he ain't lying. His reputation does speak for itself. So I can't sit up there and flow with you, Jake Paul, on that one.
Meanwhile, Jake Paul pushed back against criticism by reminding everyone that he is still relatively new to boxing and has not spent his entire life in the sport. He emphasizes his entertainment background, saying, "I was on Disney when these guys were already winning UFC belts," implying that many of his critics have been in combat sports far longer while he was building a career in show business. From Jake's perspective, it is unrealistic to expect him to begin at the top of the sport instantly. Even so, he insists that he is learning quickly and fully committed to the fight game now, prepared to prove himself inside the ring.
You are beating up on dudes who don't box. They're not boxers.
I was on Disney Channel while these guys were winning UFC championships.
Okay.
You know, I was playing with Mickey Mouse while these guys were throwing arm bars and winning UFC championships. Everyone's, analyzing my career, critiquing it, paying attention to it from day one, but you can't tell me who was Mike Tyson's first fight. You can't tell me who Muhammad Ali, who was his fourth fight. No one knows, but everyone's seen all of my fights. I tried to fight Tommy Fury. Yeah, I tried to fight Tommy Fury, and he backed out due to a rib injury. Undefeated, young prospect. He comes from the Fury family. His brother's the heavyweight champion of the world. I tried to fight him, and he got scared.
Smith has been vocal about his appreciation for what Jake Paul is contributing to boxing, particularly through his promotional approach. Smith acknowledges that although he holds several criticisms of Paul's opponent selection and the legitimacy of certain bouts, he respects that Jake has demonstrated a model where fighters can achieve success without being entirely controlled by promoters. Smith argues that promoters have too often manipulated matchmaking, stalled fighters' careers, dictated who receives major opportunities, and at times exploited their leverage. Paul entering the space and cutting through many of those traditional promoter-controlled limitations has brought increased attention, greater revenue, and fresh energy into the sport. In Smith's view, that impact carries significant value.
I've always been a fan of Jake because I think that what Jake tries to do for the sport of boxing, I think people don't realize the importance of him being able to promote for himself and not being reliant on the promoters who I believe has held the sport hostage. The only critique I've ever given Jake, I just want Jake to fight boxers. Like Nate Diaz, we know his reputation. We know the man can fight. We know in the octagon he could be something special. But we know you breathe on him, he starts bleeding.
It's a fair critique. And you know what? He should fight boxers, but then again, should he? Because I'll tell you why. If you're a human who can rake in $6 to $10 million fighting people that you're going to beat, and you want to build a resume and a record that's impressive with a good highlight reel, you got to be strategic about this shit. Jake's 25, 26. He's got so much time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I get where you coming from. All I'm saying is, we don't know your skill set because you haven't been in there with anybody really, really skilled.
One of boxing's sharpest minds, Crawford believes this fight is uneven in terms of weight, and that Jake's physical advantage might overshadow technique if he manages to land a single clean shot. He stated bluntly that if Paul connects early with a strong punch, the resulting damage could determine the entire outcome. However, Crawford also offered an important caveat. Due to the noticeable mismatch, this bout may resemble an exhibition more than a serious competitive battle grounded in boxing fundamentals.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Teddy Atlas, a highly respected voice in boxing, has spoken openly about Jake Paul's rise and the sacrifices behind it. He acknowledges that regardless of how critics view him, Paul deserves recognition for successfully securing the fights he pursues. In Atlas's assessment, that type of opportunity does not simply appear. It requires consistency, financial commitment, and a willingness to sacrifice stability for a chance at major attention. Paul has created a place for himself in boxing that few ever believed a YouTuber could achieve. Atlas also notes that Jake has genuinely improved his boxing skills. He has spent years training under experienced coaches, sparring with real professionals, and learning how to perform under pressure in the ring. While traditionalists may continue to mock him, Atlas argues that much of the criticism overlooks the effort and progress Paul has demonstrated. Many fans dismiss him solely because of his origins, yet Atlas maintains that Jake's journey proves the significant investment he has made to reach this level.
That I gave too much credit to Paul. Why? He's done a hell of a job to put himself in this position. He sold himself, he sold his dream, he took his dream, he took his idea, and he put it out there, and he made it happen. Give him credit for that. And he made it happen. And he took risk along the way. Yeah, he picked his spots. He's in the driver's seat. He gets to pick his spots. He's the one bringing the money. He's the one promoting. Yeah, he's the name. He made himself that. Coming from where he came from, with all his followers and the whole thing, and just just the uniqueness of what he was doing. But he has learned along the way. He's not a top guy yet. No, I don't know that he ever will be. He didn't have that amateur background and the things that you usually need to be a top guy. But he has improved. He is a work in progress. He is a guy that you got to give him credit that he's respected the sport. He went out there, he's worked hard at it, and he's gotten himself into this position. Having said all of that, this might be a step too far. Now, when I say it, I'm also, I try to be responsible. I've been in this game 50 years, so I know where not to step, where you could twist an ankle, or worse, you could break a leg or fall down.
Several analysts believe this fight has the potential to become one of the biggest boxing events in recent years, surpassing traditional matchups in global reach and audience engagement. Their reasoning is direct. Jake Paul is not just a boxer. He functions as an entertainer and influencer with a massive following that extends far beyond the sport itself. Unlike most fighters who draw primarily from dedicated boxing audiences, Jake attracts millions of casual viewers through his social media influence and mainstream notoriety. This crossover appeal transforms the matchup into a cultural spectacle rather than a conventional sporting contest. Analysts predict it will dominate headlines, set new pay-per-view records, and reshape the way boxing connects with a worldwide audience.
Sport of boxing than Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, Canelo's not a bigger global star than Jake Paul because Jake Paul is an entertainer outside the sport of boxing. That's why. So now you have people telling you that Jake Paul and Tank Davis is a circus fight, okay? It's a commercial circus fight on top of that. Jake Paul fights at cruiserweight and heavyweight, 200 plus pound, 200 minimum. Okay, his last fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., former world champion, the son of a legend, he weighed in at 199 pounds. He fought Iron Mike Tyson at 224 pounds, okay? Tank Davis fights at 135 pounds. You have the storyline of David and Goliath that's going to push the entertainment part, okay? That's going to get people to draw interest in the fight. Why? Because you have the whole David and Goliath situation going on. So again, that attracts people. Okay? So it's a sideshow. But even the sideshow, yes, it's going to be on Netflix. Yes, it's going to be a big event on Netflix. But guess what? They are fighting at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia.
The fight has been widely criticized as a spectacle disguised as sport, driven primarily by financial gain rather than genuine competition. Commentators from the boxing community have described it as a greedy, exaggerated sideshow, arguing that merit and tradition are being sacrificed for social media attention and oversized paydays. In their view, it represents a disappointing regression for the sweet science. Davis has received significant backlash for abandoning his contractual rematch with Lamont Roach Jr. in order to accept a far more lucrative bout against Jake Paul. Roach, who believes he deserved the victory in their disputed draw, felt insulted by Davis's decision. Although a rematch clause existed in their agreement, Davis never signed the final paperwork to proceed. Instead, Tank is reportedly set to earn approximately $100 million for the exhibition with Jake Paul, a figure that vastly exceeds what he would have made facing Roach again. Critics insist this choice prioritizes profit over the integrity of the sport.
Gervonta doesn't want this fight.
You want that rematch next? It's definitely the one I want next.
It's the fight I want next, but it's not the fight that's going to be next. Tank said they ain't going to give it to you. PBC had a contract for Tank Roach. Tank didn't sign it. Roach knew all along fight ain't going to happen. He was only contractually obligated to have the rematch if Roach win. Roach won that fight. Robbed him of the knockdown. It's a draw. Now they're not contractually obligated. So why didn't Tank sign the contract?
Gervonta Davis, and you're being offered 20, 30, 40 million, whatever the number is, and you're getting 7 or 8 to fight Lamont Roach.
Do you remember once upon a time, Gervonta Tank Davis had a contract on the table for like 200 million, 300 million, something crazy like that? 6-fight deal, what happened to it? The PBC split with Showtime, now with Amazon. Gervonta doesn't want to fight Jake. What else is he going to do? Let me tell you the biggest issue. He had nowhere to go.
Where's the...
Gary Logan and David Adelaide have emphasized that fame and financial reward now frequently outweighed legacy and competitive pride in the sport. Rather than pursuing a rematch with Lamont Roach, Davis opted for the far more lucrative, high-profile showdown against Jake Paul. The analysts concluded that although the decision makes sound business sense, it highlights how modern boxing increasingly prioritizes spectacle and profit over genuine competition and the traditional values that once defined the sport.
With Jake Paul pretty soon. What do you think that, like, what is it?
You know why, it's people, a lot of people mad, a lot of people upset, real hardcore boxing fans. But you know what about boxing? I like, when it's all said and done and when you guys go off, they go into the next man. Yeah. So if y'all can make a big payday, go get that payday. The sport of boxing don't love you. And that's the problem with this sport. It's like, what Jake Paul did, man, it's crazy. But people getting paid off of it.
Yeah.
So if he can call any one of y'all out and y'all can get that payday, I say go get it, baby.
Do you think Jake's size and star power will give him a legitimate chance, or will Tank's elite skill and knockout power be far too much for him to handle? Share your opinion in the comments below. Thanks for watching.